The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn is a classic novel filled with moral dilemmas and thrilling quests and learning experiences of our main character Huck and his friend Jim. But that's, of course, if you take out half of the novel. The rest of it is filled with boy adventure stories and questionable moral choices and a complete lack of accountability for any of the choices that you make. But as far as from a literary standpoint, there are a lot of good things to be said about the novel. Today, we are going to be looking at the archetypes found in Huckleberry Finn in this episode of Crash Course Unveiled. If there's ever a novel known for its use of rivers, it's Huck Finn. While the novel is dependent on the Mississippi River for moving its plot along, the river comes to represent much more than a simple means of transportation. There's a stark contrast between the chapters that take place on the shore than the chapters that take place on the river. As Huck says, we said there weren't no home like a raft after all. Other places do feel cramped up and smothery, but a raft don't. You feel mighty free and easy and comfortable on a raft. The important word in that quote is free. The river is freedom. The shore is the opposite. Slavery, oppression, captivity, etc., etc. Huck is always captive whilst on the shore. The clothes he has at the widow's house make him feel all cramped up. He wants to go to the bad place just so he can have a change of scenery, and at night he escapes his lonesome abode to where? The river. Later, Huck is forced to live with his alcoholic, abusive father whose sole drive in life is to earn enough money to get drunk. Huck says that at night he always locked the door and put the key under his head. Huck gets beaten to the point where he has welts all over his body, and he would get locked in the house for as much as 3 days. Pap is just a picture of A-plus parenting. When Huck finally carries out his elaborate escape plan, where does he go? The river. The same is true for Jim, for when he gets the chance to escape, where does he go? The river. Whenever Huck goes on shore, he is always trapped by the king and duke, by the Grangerfords, by Aunt Sally, or even by Judith Loftus, who is the woman Huck meets when he dresses up as a girl to go find out him and Jim's fate. The river is the contrast to this captivity, just as water and earth are opposites. The freedom on the raft is important because when it comes to some interesting character development, Huck is the white boy, and he's made equal to Jim, the black man, only on the raft. We see this when Huck tells Jim that he and Jim were always naked whilst alone on the raft, nakedness being the clearest indication of equality and freedom. And next archetype we're going to talk about is the angry white male archetype. Run! Run! Oh, look, 2 angry white males just going by. Okay, so, in Huck Finn, the angry white males include the Duke. There's the Duke and the King and Pap, the Judge, among other people that Huck meets whilst he is on the shore. Angry white males in Huck Finn represent the political and social views of the time. In this case, racial blindness. That's what is reflected in Pap's Call This a Government speech, where he talks about how an African American man became very successful due to his own efforts in becoming educated and doing all this great stuff, yet Pap just sees him as any other black man and wants him to be just a slave to the white people. Tom Sawyer also fits in this category because he basically uses Jim just to satisfy his own greed, his greed being the desire to have adventures, which is very cruel and jerky thing to do to Jim, which is basically the political views of the time were pretty cruel and jerky. I think that's basically it for the angry white male. Now we're going to talk about some hero archetype. Okay. We need to find a hero then. So in Huck Finn, we basically have 3 options. It's Huck, Jim, and Tom. Now Huck is the logical option for the hero archetype, basically because the book is written from his point of view, so he has a lot going for him. He does often save the day, though he does this often to help himself. He lies, and he cheats people out of their money, and does a lot of really bad things in order to save the day. But he does do it. And he does decide to not turn against Jim in his last minute, deciding to just say, all right, then I'll go to hell, when he decides to not turn in Jim to Mrs. Watson. Against him, he becomes nothing more than a passive observer for the last 12 chapters, when Tom does all these horrible things to make Jim escape in a very romantic and adventure-y fashion. But, it's really hurting Jim's opportunity to get free. And Huck really does nothing to stop this. So that really cuts into his hero's capabilities. And then there's Tom. So Tom does save Jim in a twisted, maniacal, evil sort of way. And he does get himself wounded, which is sort of a requirement to be a hero, actually. But he's not very good at saving Jim, and withholds important information from Jim that would have helped Jim escape a heck of a lot faster than Tom's digging tunnels, climbing lightning rods, making notes, all this sort of crazy things. So Tom's definitely not the hero in this novel. So there's Jim. I'm pretty sure that Jim is the most hero-like person of our three main characters. Jim does save Tom's life after Tom makes some pretty stupid decisions. And Jim basically gives up what he believes is going to be his passage to freedom to save Tom, which is pretty heroic because it's making sacrifices and stuff, and we'll get to that later. So Jim helps Huck just as much as Huck tells Jim, and he teaches Huck a lot of lessons that Huck desperately needs to learn. But that would make him less of a hero and more of a mentor character, which lends the sort of ambivalence that we find in this book. Also, running against Jim is Jim's prominence in the novel goes up and down throughout the entire course of the book. At first, he's nothing but a comic relief character, then he's really important, and then he's sitting on the raft while nothing is happening. And then he's being played by Tom in this really horrible sort of way. So, when we try to discover who really is the hero in this book, I think Bonnie Tyler is going to be disappointed, because is there really a hero in the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn? I don't think so. So, if there is no hero in this book, then what are... Okay, that needs to stop! Hand! Don't make that stop! I am so sick of that song. Thank you for watching this episode of Crash Course Unveiled. We have our lovely hands, Kevin Benitez and Sierra Martin. I'm sorry, okay? Anyway, Kevin is also our artist, drawing our lovely things. We have Andrew Park and Alyssa Eister. They're helping us out behind the scenes. And I'm Lindsay Mason, and we'll see you next time on Crash Course Unveiled.